Okay, hello everyone. I hope you can all hear me clearly. Hello, Nicole, Dan, and we're having Anya, Tommy. Welcome, guys. Great job. I'm looking forward to hearing Anya. Haven't heard her today. And Tommy, do we have you here with us?
Uh, oh yeah, I forgot to, sorry, forgot to turn on my camera.
Okay, perfect. So you all know the rules. First, let's see your note cards. And we have Anya on Pro, Tommy on Con. Okay, thank you, Anya. Okay, thank you, Tommy. Okay, perfect. So if you're ready, guys, we may start. Anya, you have 4 minutes for your opening speech. Let me
Yes.
just set the timer.
Is everyone ready to begin? Okay. 4 minutes on the clock, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. As we all know, social media, especially international social media, is a powerful tool of communication. It allows everyone from all sides of the platform to express themselves. And when access to international social media is limited, it doesn't allow for people to express their thoughts and opinions. And international social media enables freedom of speech and allows people to display their cultures, which outweighs the concerns of foreign ownership. My first argument is that international social media enables freedom of speech. Social media has often played a key role in connecting and exchanging information with individuals without any interference. And this creates a sense of solidarity, knowing that people are there to understand each other on such big platforms. International social media enables freedom of speech, which is a fundamental human right, which brings society to develop and progress. And the ability to express our opinion and speak freely is essential to bring change in society. According to Rachel Jolly, the magazine and editor for Index on Censorship, free speech brought change. And it was important that speech was there because it has been important throughout history. Think about a time from the past when women were not being allowed to vote, or where there were terrible working conditions in the mines. Free speech is important as it helped change these things. International social media promotes speech with no political or cultural pressure. Instead, it is brought in a safe and supportive environment, allowing individuals to speak their minds. My second argument is that access to international social media displays many diverse cultures. The world has many diverse cultures, and international social media allows people to connect and share their different ways of life. This helps advance minorities without cultural pressure. By doing this, diversity and inclusion are promoted and celebrated. For example, Black Lives Matter and Arab Spring use a combination of freedom of speech and the cultural display on these platforms to make sure that their voices were heard and that the government knew that what they were doing was not right in terms of Arab Spring and that racism was not okay. According to Zarin Denzel, the founder and CEO of Twenty, a Spanish tech company, international social media brings culture closer to people, which nurtures new forms of expression and art. And this helps spread lots of knowledge. And a study on the use of religious culture, specifically the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, concluded that minority cultures can use international social media to enhance minority values and behaviors in ways never envisioned by mainstream social media use. A global movement of cultural processes and initiatives is only underway because of international social media apps, which is why they are extremely important that the public can use them. Judges, I strongly urge you to vote pro that access to international social media outweighs concerns of foreign ownership because it allows freedom of speech and people to display their cultures. I want you to revert back to the time in my first argument when I asked you to think about a time in the past when either women were not allowed to vote or working in conditions in mines were so bad that people had died because of that. Free speech has changed all of that. Black Lives Matter and Arab Spring were examples of this too, and to reinforce that impact international social media was there to make sure that people are heard, racism is not okay, and that the government knows that they are corrupt and that's not good for the future of their society. Which is why, Judge, due to the impact of my arguments, I strongly urge you to vote pro that access to international social media outweighs concerns of foreign ownership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anya. It is time for cross-examination. Tommy, the floor is yours.
Okay. Anya, so you have two main arguments, one about culture and one about free speech, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so my first question is, do you think that culture can be also spread on domestic social media?
It can, but due to the fact that international social media is constantly changing and is such a widespread base, it's imperative that users can like spread their information and everything, and people
Okay,
can learn.
all right. Are you also aware that domestic social media is also a site for free speech?
Yes. However, again, I stated that international social media
Okay.
performs freedom of speech without any interference.
Okay, are you aware that since international social media is under control of foreign governments and entities, there are many examples of censorship that may not allow the people to have freedom of expression?
There's censorship on domestic platforms as well.
Okay, all right. And also, do you know that the spread of culture can lead to the distortion of culture, meaning that the culture can be changed because so this type of culture is seen by many people with different views, meaning that also if the culture is taken out of context, it might mean that the culture was not in its original state when spread to other people. You know,
the whole point of international social media displaying diverse cultures is that people can get out of their comfort zone and learn about different ways of life and share their different values. And
Okay.
This has lots of good impacts. So
all right.
I don't stand with that.
Cross-examination.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Tommy. It's your turn. And I would like to ask you to step a little bit behind so that we can see you, fully. Thank you.
There's some, okay. All right. And I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Imagine the Cold War, but instead of the USSR, imagine China. Now, in this situation, China has gone to become a global superpower and has now exerted enormous amounts of influence economically and politically. In fact, they have even begun to spread communism, something that the US feels threatened by. Now, I know this may seem improbable, but this is very likely due to one reason: China collecting our data. Judge, I negate the resolution that access to international social media outweighs concerns of foreign ownership for two main reasons: data privacy and national security. In terms of data privacy, one excellent example is TikTok in China. Now, TikTok is home to 150 million Americans and is also under ownership of ByteDance, a Chinese company. With that in mind, in 2017, China passed the national intelligence laws, forcing all citizens and all Chinese companies to give the Chinese government data at their request. Now, this is very important because ByteDance falls under this category, meaning that if the Chinese government requests it, they are forced to give the information from TikTok over to China. Now, this type of data can be seen through profile information, device information, usage data, location data, contact information, and biometric information of individuals who use TikTok. This gives them more intelligence gathering, giving them an advantage in economy, and also putting us more at risk to cyber attacks. In terms of the economy, they can now monitor economic trends, our US preferences, and even give them insights into business opportunities. In terms of their offensive, experts say from the FBI that China is more likely now to use spear phishing and credential stuffing, further leaking the information and data of US citizens. There's already an example of this in 2015, where the US Office of Personnel Management of 21.5 million Americans and their families' personal information was leaked. This included their social security number, date of birth, and security clearance information. The FBI says that the most likely culprit is China, and that they can use this information for a variety of things such as identity theft and influence operations. Judge, as you can see, international social media is a big risk to the data the US that the data that the US citizens hold. Now, my second argument that is that international social media is a threat to our national security. This is because international social media has such a large reach, with foreign governments and foreign entities can post whatever they want, whenever they want, under their control. Now, they can use things such as people such as state-sponsored actors, political groups, and individuals that try to manipulate public opinion and sow discord in the US. One example of this is the 2016 presidential election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Now, Russian operatives set up fake social media accounts on international social media under the pretending that they were US citizens and posted false rumors and conspiracy theories of Hillary Clinton. These false rumors included Hillary Clinton partaking in illegal activities and even health rumors, trying to convince the US that Hillary Clinton was going under a medical condition and that she was not healthy enough to serve for 4 years as president. This is extremely harmful because it undermines the democracy that the US was built upon. If governments can this easily influence our domestic affairs, who's to know what they will do next in next presidential elections or anything that the US is involved in? Now, Judge, as you can see, because of national security and the risk of our data being leaked, international social media is a big threat. And this is why you should vote for Khan. I now stand for cross-examination.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Anya, the floor is yours. 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes on the clock starting in 3, 2, 1. Do you think that it is a user's wish to use the international social media platform?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so do you think that if any data mining happens by accident, do you think it is the app's fault or the user's fault for deciding to go on that platform?
What do you mean mining by accident? You're saying that data is being taken on accident?
No, if an AI's protection isn't strong enough, do you think that it's the user's fault that they had their information stolen because they wanted on the app?
I think that it is not the user's fault because the user is not aware of all of the data and all of the information of themselves that they are posting online for foreign governments to collect.
So you're saying that the extreme measures that international social media has is at fault?
I think that more information could be spread so that the people are more aware of what data is being stolen from them.
Okay, on your second argument it was national security, correct?
Yes.
Do you think international social media is an essential tool for promoting the spread of information on a specific health emergency?
Yes, I actually do think so. But with that, there is also the spread of disinformation. For example, in 2019, there were false COVID rumors from India and Pakistan that if you inject bleach in your arm, then that cures COVID. Or maybe that masks don't do anything. Now, that's just one example of how this information can also spread.
Okay, thank you. Do you think that is the government's doing, the spreading of those kind of misinformation? Do you think it's the government's fault?
I think that is the fault of the people because they're the ones that...
Okay. Got it. That's time.
Okay, thank you very much. Time for your refutation speeches. Anna, would you like to take some prep time?
Yeah, can you please just give me a 30-second timer?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Starting now. That is time, Anya.
Okay, I'm going to set the timer. Okay.
Okay, so 3 minutes for refutation when you're ready.
Yeah. Okay, 3 minutes on the clock starting in 3, 2, 1. My opponent's two arguments was that access to international social media hurts users' privacy and also threatens national security. My opponent's first argument was that access to international social media hurts the data and the user's privacy. However, international social media has many features and safeguards that protects a user. For example, the privacy settings on an international social media's app and encryption have very secure logins to make sure that it's almost impossible for a user to get hacked or have their information get stolen. For example, on WhatsApp, an international social media form of communication, it says that messages and calls are end-to-end encrypted. No one outside of this chat, not even WhatsApp, can hear, read, or listen to them. This includes text and voice messages, audio and video calls, photos, videos, documents, and location sharing. Furthermore, international social media does not force its users to go on the platform. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Users go on their own wish to go on the international social media's platform. So it is not that the fault of international social media, because AI is still growing and still developing, and there are still some holes yet to be patched. So actually, international social media has no fault of its own, and actually it's the user's fault. My second argument that I'm going to refute today is that access to international social media threatens national security. While international social media has become an essential tool for promoting national security in many ways, through social media, especially international social media, the government can share important information with the public and respond to emergencies as quick as possible. For example, when Elizabeth Warren stated that right-wing extremists have hacked into the Supreme Court of the United States, people were alerted and they gathered to support to make sure that no one was scared that the US would fall to its knees. By monitoring social media activity, authorities can also identify patterns of behavior and prevent potential security threats before they occur. Additionally, social media, especially international social media, can be used to promote community engagement and encourage citizens to report suspicious activity. Overall, social media, especially international social media in forms of TikTok, Weibo, WeChat, WhatsApp, etc., has become an important tool for promoting national security and keeping citizens safe. Now, to reinforce my arguments that access to international social media promotes free speech and cultural diversity, these still stand. Domestic in social media also has some type of censorship, but that's censorship against racist comments. And racist comments is not allowed on the platform. It can hurt a user's mental health, and it can also cause a revolt, which is not what international social media is about. So international social media, in turn, has access to it outweighs the concerns of foreign ownership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anya. So Tommy, would you like some prep time?
I think I'm good for this.
Okay, so 3 minutes when you're ready. Make sure you can see your face, like the whole face.
Yeah, it's just kind of, yeah. Okay, so I will first be refuting my opponent's arguments, then reinforcing mine. So first I want to talk about the culture. She just said that domestic social media has censorship that blocks that blocks racist comments, but that doesn't have to do with international social media. How do you know that international social media is doing that? In fact, if they don't, that also spreads racist comments, which, like you said, hurts mental health. Additionally, the spread of culture can be very limited for many reasons. One is homogenization, where cultural differences are erased because people are more in favor of a more standardized, globalized culture, such as Western culture. Now, this can easily overshadow smaller cultures and lead to loss of cultural diversity. In fact, this is further proven because social media is often controlled by powerful multinational corporations whose interests may not align with the cultural minority or marginalized groups. And this makes sure that they promote that their cultural content more that aligns with them instead of the actual minority culture that is being represented. Additionally, like I have stated in CrossX, a spread of culture also leads to distortion of it. If this culture is taken out of context or in the hands of people who do not like the culture, this can lead to people putting false comments or false connotations on this culture that is just completely untrue, meaning that some cultures can be completely wiped out. One example is the small minority Ainu culture in Japan, where they were completely wiped out due to Western culture and disinformation. Now, I want to move on to censorship, to social movements. My argument is that while some social movements do occur, most of them fail because of censorship. Now, one example is in 2019, where the Iranian government drastically increased the fuel prices on all the Iranian people. The Iranian people, obviously outraged by this, they posted this issue on international social media. But in fact, instantly, the Iranian government blocked and restricted all content related to the fuel prices, and they even restricted the internet. This just shows how far foreign governments can go to restrict international social media access so that ideas cannot be spread. Now, now on my point of national security, the only refutation that my opponent has argued is that there are security measures and that there are positive things that come, like such as global health crises. However, due to if international social media helps spread information of these public health crises, that also leads to disinformation. Like I've already stated in my cross-sex, in 2019, there were rumors in India and Pakistan about people injecting bleach and that will cure COVID, or masks do nothing. And that's just an example that shows how international social media can also spread disinformation.
Thank you very much. That would be time. Okay, so 2 minutes for your closing speeches. Anya, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Do you want to use that time?
Yes, please.
Okay, starting now. That is time. Let's have 2 minutes, Anya.
Okay, is everyone ready? Okay, 2 minutes on the clock, starting in 3, 2, 1. International social media has become a game changer in promoting the overall well-being of people worldwide. By connecting businesses and entrepreneurs from different parts of the world, international social media has created a platform for individuals to access a wider range of products and services. Additionally, international social media has made it easier for people to access information on various topics, including health, education, and other essential services. This increased accessibility has made it life easier and healthier for people on all corners of the world. To reinforce my free speech and my cultural diversity argument, one of the most significant impacts in international social media is its ability to connect people in other parts of the world and enabling them to hear each other's voices and perspectives. This helps promote diversity and understanding, leading to a more tolerant and inclusive global community. For example, when an Iranian woman was shot when she was peacefully protesting on international social media and in person, this brought the attention of many world leaders. including the former president of the United States, Barack Obama. He himself stated that no iron fist is strong enough to shut off the world from bearing witness to peaceful protests of justice. But those who stand up for justice are always on the right side of history. Justice for people around the world can be brought through international social media. And while there are always challenges to be faced and more imperfections to be made, international social media remains committed to practicing the safety and well-being of all of its users. Overall, international social media has become an indispensable tool for promoting diversity, understanding, and well-being among the people worldwide. Judges, the impact of my two arguments outweigh the concerns of my opponent in terms of magnitude. Because if everyone was able to speak freely and everyone learned about different cultures, this would create a better world, which is why I strongly urge you to vote pro. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anya. And Tommy, you have 2 minutes left. Would you like to use that time?
I also think I think I'm ready.
Okay, so let's have 2 minutes for your speech.
Okay, thanks. Timer will be on my first word. 3, 2, 1. So from my opponent's arguments, I can make out 3 things: cultural diversity, free speech, and also essential services. Like I've already said, the spreading of culture is highly limited due to homogenization and also distortion of culture. Censorship also prevents the spread of social movements and freedom of speech because foreign governments directly have the power to cancel whatever these people say. In terms of essential services, like she said, global health crises not only do positive information spread, but disinformation also spreads, such as injecting bleach in your arm. Like, how will that help the community in any way? Now, I want to move on to my 2 points of national security and data privacy. The only refutation my opponent states is that it's the user's fault. Well, yes, even though it is the user's fault, our data is still being stolen. The users might not be educated by the international social media or by the government, and that is why they're making these hurtful decisions. She has done nothing to refute my arguments of the 2017 National Intelligence Law that helps China collect data from TikTok, and also the domestic affairs of the 2016 presidential election and how international social media can undermine our democracy. Now, Judge, would you rather live in a world where there is a boost of culture, but then there are people that are being suppressed due to censorship, and there are also people that have their data being leaked and other governments rising compared to the US? Judge, I have already stated in my opening that this is going to become more like a Cold War with China, as China gains more economic and political influence because of this stolen data that my opponent did not refute. The US will weaken in power, and that is something that should not happen. So, Judge, this is why I urge you to vote for Khan.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Great job for both of you. So, dear judges, would you like to send your decision as soon as you're... Let me see if I can actually... Yeah, I would like you to send me like direct message as soon as you decide. Thank you. Okay, everyone, we do have a decision. So once again, thank you for joining this tournament. Thank you for making it so dynamic. Thank you for giving us some hard time making decisions, guys. And here is the decision. It's 2 votes for Khan and 1 vote for pro. So congratulations, Tony, you are the winner of this tournament.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as you've learned from the results, it was pretty hard for all of us to resolve who's going to win. So I would like our judges to give a short feedback, starting from Dan and then Nicole, and then I'll wrap up if there's anything left.
Sure. So I was the one vote for Anya. I think it was a good round. It was a close round. Anya, I voted for you, although I will say I would have liked to have heard, because this was like the third or fourth time I've judged you throughout the day. And I've heard you a couple of times on Pro, and one thing, your closing speech sounds very similar round to round. I heard the President Obama example multiple times. I heard the connection with the miners, the coal miners a bunch of times. Like, I would like to hear, as you move forward, a little more diversity, and vary your speeches from round to round just a little bit more, because we want to make sure that we're not sounding too repetitive from round to round. We want to kind of tailor our refutation, our closing speeches, a little bit more to how the round progresses, and the individual opponent that you're matched up against. I do think, however, you were able to outweigh Tommy. I think what tipped the scales for me in favor of Anya was that a lot of your examples, a lot of your impacts were internationally centered. So I heard examples with Iran, and the examples you used with China. How is that affecting the United States? How is Iran blocking social media platforms? How is that going to affect us in the United States? So I think these examples are relevant. I do think that there is a tie in there, but I did not hear a clear enough connection to how this is, the topic wording as it relates to us directly. So I think Anya was able to outweigh a little bit with the cultural aspects and her primary arguments. But it was a good round by both of you. I mean, you both deserve to be here. You earned it, obviously. So it was a good round for close margins, but Anya edged it out for me.
Thank you very much, Dan. Nicole?
Yeah, congratulations to both of you for making it this far. So I ended up voting for the con. I didn't vote con last round. So this is the round that I ended up voting for con for Tommy. And I ended up voting this way because of what I saw consistently, I thought, coming throughout the speech, which was this idea of risk again, which we saw earlier in our last round. But just this idea of risk was the clearest narrative for me throughout the entirety of the debate. Anya, I think that, backtracking real quick. For Tommy, yeah, some examples I was a little confused as to why they were maybe a little relevant, like the Iran and that example specifically. I would have liked to have heard more context. But for Anya, I'm having a little bit of trouble by that closing speech figuring out why this cultural inclusion, which it can happen in other places as well, is that much more important and to then this idea of risk. I would have liked to have, I think it might have gone differently if maybe you pressed a bit more on this idea of like a risk, and maybe that it's not there, right? Maybe that it's blown over proportion. But that could have that probably something that would have needed to started in cross-examination, right? Because this is the whole narrative of the con. It was really close, and this is just the piece that I was able to pick out most clearly and find a way to vote for Tommy. And I think Tommy does a really good job with the pathos in that closing speech as well throughout the round. But congratulations, Anya. Yeah, good job to both of you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. So as I mentioned, if there's anything else I could add. So I'm going to state something that I've shared in semifinals, and it's the fact that it was such a close round that it all boiled down to your closing speeches, actually what's left untouched. And as Nicole said, when you started, Anya, I felt like, wow, this is the first time at this tournament that I hear such impacts, and I was looking forward your impacts on human rights to actually overcome the obstacle of risk and data privacy. I felt that that weighing could actually, like that line could end up in weighing in your closing speech. But for example, that like the evidence, the piece of evidence that you've mentioned, like a new one that you introduced in your summary speech, I felt it was, you know, too much. There were some things to resolve regarding risk, as Nicole mentioned, and I felt you didn't tackle that in your summary speech enough. So it sounded more of a repetitive in the context of what you presented in your opening speech, but I really love the pathos. And you know what? I would vote for you if you were, you know, if this was a presidential debate. You really had that thing going. And then Tommy, again, I was waiting for that speech to see whether he will manage to show us that risk is there and it exists. And actually the way that he pointed out, like the Cold War and the picture that he painted for us, and then comparing to Soviet Union, that is actually what got me, especially mentioning that even if it's users' fault, like it's still happening. So and then there's, yeah, I'm speaking too much. I'm just gonna end here. There was the point about national security where you, Anya, did not attack and refute it, but you found it a way to actually point out, hey, it can help with national security, but I actually didn't prove that national security can actually be endangered due to international social media. So for that reason, my vote went to Tommy. And yeah, great job, Tommy, for you know, ending where you started in your attention grabber. I really love that that dynamics. Okay, thank you very much for watching us, dear parents, friends, families, and by saying this, I'm closing